Today we're going to delve a little deeper into the fretboard of my 1984 Yamaha FG420-L. This is one that had not had any real deep cleaning on the fretboard since mid 80s when it was originally bought. So a couple of weeks ago I pulled the strings off to the side. The strings are fairly new, so I don't want to change them just yet. But I do want to clean this fretboard a little closer. So today we're going to get a little deeper and try another different way. Of course, the first thing we need to do is get the capo. And we're going to put it above the headstock. What we're trying to do is loosen off all the strings but not let the windings around the spindle bundle, basically. We want to keep a little bit taut on them, and we will. So, of course, when you loosen the strings off on any of these things, always do the smaller gauge, or smaller as in thinner strings first, because when you do these ones, there will be more pressure put on the other strings from the neck, just not having all the pressure and that on it, and you could take a chance at bursting the smaller gauge strings. So we're going to try not to do that. So I will start loosening off all the strings, and I will update you as soon as I get to that point, which will be like right now. Okay, so now the strings have been loosened off. What we're going to do is just pull them out of the nut and around the side. I'm going to have to loosen that one off a bit more, obviously. The strings should come off to the side, exposing the complete fretboard. Well, not quite, but of course now we have to do the string trick, where we drop string down through there, around, up through here, and then we will tie this back behind, putting just enough pressure on it to keep the strings away from the fretboard. Cautious with how you're doing this, of course. Okay. Now, fretboard is completely, other than right there, exposed. And today we're going to put into use a razor blade. This particular one is out of a X-Acto knife, or a knife. What we're going to do is basically go over the fretboard. Caution, because you are going to bring up bits of the board itself. But what we're trying to do is get a nice clean surface to deal with. I'm going to do all of these, but this is going to get all the, there was embedded grime, sweat, dirt, all that right into the wood. So we're trying to get as clean a surface as we can to try and, well, just clean it up. And one other thing to remember is when you're scraping the fretboard, always go in a manner of dragging. Don't scrape this way, drag back. Okay. So drag the blade, do not push the blade. Okay, so now we've pretty much removed anything that we were wanting to. Something to remember is you don't want to put too much pressure on the blade as you're dragging it, because as you can see I am pulling up wood But the only place I used any real pressure was on this here very beyond, because it was just more for just the color. I've put this little piece of slab of shim because I don't want to go bang onto the guitar with this here blade, and I put it on top of the strings so that I'm not hitting the strings with the blade either. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is to work on the frets. There is some fair good fret wear on this guitar, but I'm not really too worried about that just now. Now, in order to do the frets that way, polish them up, what you need is some steel wool. What you're looking for is the stuff with 0000 or 40 gauge. This is just that it's a softer one. It will polish up the frets but not damage them. But you got to go this way across, so what happens is you will scrape the wood. What you want is a fret template. Now, I don't have one, but you can get them at the guitar store. But what I'm going to do is take the Joker. Don't know if you can see it on there, but I've put some stripes down the middle there, and I'm going to take the razor blade with ruler and cut out a little wee strip down through the middle. I already marked off on the card that it needs to be from here to here. That's the width of the neck. So we're going to line this up on there. Take the blade and cut through the playing card. Then we will move it over a bit, get the other side. Cut from about here right up against the blade to about there. And so I have cut a strip out of the middle of the card, and it, you will notice, goes right around the fret, so that the fret sticks through and is exposed, but none of the rosewood is. So next we do set it up on here, open that up just a little bit more, put that across, and now we've got a template to be able to polish the fret but not scratch the wood. You can get these, as I say, at the axe shop, which is probably not that expensive and all that, but I'm here now. I'm not going through all that crap. I'm not going out to get one just for this. So polish up the frets, and yeah, you can see how much shinier they are. Well, I can see how much shinier they are. You are not going to see it because I got a cheap camera that you won't be able to notice it on. Oh, sorry, I forgot. You're hearing the cardboard. Not anymore. Okay, so let's polish up all those frets. It is a little tricky to hold, but oh well, we do what we can do. But remember, 40 steel wool is what you want, because it's the lightest grade you can get. It will polish. Oh yeah, it will polish those frets. I don't know if you'll be able to tell the difference between the first two and the next ones. There's a slight difference there, but anyways, we'll see how it all turns out in the end. Just believe me, it's better. One other thing to note, if you're doing this on an electric guitar, take the time to get some painter's tape and tape off all the electronics, because this will put little shards of metal out there and they will get caught on your pickups, they will get down into the electronics. You don't want that. And the reason we use the 4-0 paper is, I don't know if you can see it there, but it is literally taking the ink off of this playing card but left the surface good. So that is just a couple of other little hints for you. As I say, 4000 gauge steel wool, and tape off your electronics if you're into an electric guitar. Besides that, your pickups with the little magnets in them will attract these little minuscule shards of metal. And I was telling you about the little metal shards. I believe you'll be able to see them there. That's the kind of stuff you do not want in the electronics of an electric guitar. Caution, be very careful with that. This works really well. These ones up here didn't need too much because they don't get much use, but the rest of them are beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna get myself a damp piece of paper towel and dab up all those little metal shavings. We don't want to rub them in because that will definitely have issues with the surface and the finish of the guitar. And a few drops on just a piece of paper towel. I patted it clean, and now slightly dab it on there. Those are little metal shavings. So, as I say, we want to be very careful with them. I'm just dabbing it on here to have them stick to the paper towel, and then we will clean it all out vigorously. Now I can see where some of the grease and grime from my fingers have gotten into the pores of the wood here. Last time we did this, you noticed that after we did refinish it, there was slight stripes here and there, little gray stripes. What I figured was happening was that we didn't get the grease and grime completely out of the pores, and the hydrate, which is the fluid to hydrate, was not getting to the wood. They would be sitting on that little slab of grime. So we're gonna take our razor blade and just sort of look this over closely. I can, as I say, see little spots here and there where it might need a little more of a scrape down, but that's what we'll do. So I'm going to be using at least 3 different chemicals on this. There's a what they call detailer, which has a first kind of a deep cleaning part. And then there's a wax, which I only put on certain guitars because I have a couple of Seagulls, which are a satin finish. You don't want to put wax on them. They're not designed to have wax on them. This being an old Yamaha, sorry, it might take some wax. But you'll notice what I'm doing here is I have some sleeves of t-shirt material where I've cut the sleeves off them. And right now I'm cutting off the seams, and that's because I wanted a nice clean t-shirt, soft t-shirt material. But when you get into these seams and that, now this here, the threads in there are more of a polyester type material. They have to be really, really strong so they don't come apart. I'm not going to take a chance that anything has a edge on it that where if I'm going to wipe it on there, I'm going to create scratches. So always use as clean and soft, clear a piece of material as you possibly can. So that's why I cut the sleeve hems, seams out. I don't want to take a chance at anything in there having any sort of even slightly rougher edge that might harm the finish. So to do the fretboard, first off, I'm going to start out with the Diageo spray cleaner. This is not sponsored. This is what I just picked up when I was up there last. So we're going to see about how it works. If I don't like it, I will tell you I don't like it, because they're not paying me to tell you anything. So put it on the material. It looks beautiful right there, but it will dry up and go back to its other original dry, dull finish. Okay, make sure we get a good rub into each and every surface area. Now we're going to let that dry out and see how that looks once it gets to that end. We are now going to go through the detailer. Detailer is a pasty type material. It is to basically go around, help fill in any little spots here and there. You will notice that in that corner there's a little bit of a gash. What happened here was, just after I bought it, mid-80s, we were at a party and we were doing hot knives. I took the guitar Johnny Cash style. I was playing it with strap, and I just flipped it around on my back so that the top was up near my shoulders, bottom down near my hip, hanging there so I could apply the hot knives. Anyways, what happened was, thing popped off. This thing dropped from this being about 5.5 feet in the air, went bam on a tile covered concrete floor, which pushed that in, separated from here to here. This all was kind of sticking up a bit. Stuff happens. Either way, now it's time to start working on the rest of the body while this here dries out. So now we take a new piece of cloth. The other one that we used for the cleaner is still there. We're going to put some of this on the cloth and go over the guitar to see how this works. As I say, it goes on kind of in a paste form, but it's called detailer. Now, what that means, I would have thought detailer would be a cleaning solution, which I believe it might be, but this certainly does have a waxy type feel to it. When I look at it in the reflection from the window, I can see kind of a greasy type substance on it, so let's just keep rubbing it in until we see no more. I don't think oh yeah, you can see those scrapes that are right in there. They were there beforehand, but believe it or not, they do look a little better than what they did earlier. But as I say, this is a mid-80s guitar, so 90s. Oh, stands twice. See, the thing's 40 some odd years old. Wow. Okay. On to the next procedure. But I am wiping this as clean as I can. It does tend to, the film tends to turn to a shine if you go at it long enough. So now we're going to go back to the fretboard and use the hydrate. Hydrate. Anyways, another fresh, clean piece of material, soft t-shirt material. All right, we're going to do this so that we can let it seep in a bit, and then we will go on to cleaning the rest of the body with the spray cleaner and the spray cleaner rag. Remember, do not mix. And then while we're doing that, this is going to seep into the wood and create the hydration. But what I'm going to do is spend a little while with the cleaning of the rest of the guitar so that this can sort of seep in, and we will see how it finishes off, and we can reapply if we have to. Now, what we do is put this on. And we're going to let it sit a minute or so to try and seep into the wood. I will say it is looking a lot better than what it did earlier. And then what we do is we wipe it off. Make sure it gets deep in the wood. I can already see a couple of frets up near the end that don't seem to be taking it again. But every little bit helps. Now apparently you don't want to do this too often, about once a year, twice a year sort of thing. I've already done it twice in the last couple of weeks, but that's because it had absolutely no maintenance or care in the last 40 years, so it really needs it now. Okay, let's let that seep in for a couple more minutes and then I will wipe it off. Or we can reverse the screen and do, while that is seeping in, let's clean the rest of the guitar with the spray cleaner and the original spray cleaner rag. Okay, let's see how this does with that finish on there. What it does to that waxy film of the detailer. Now there is some slight fumes to this that you will notice. Probably should do it in a ventilated area. It will of course bother other people more than some people more than others, yada yada yada, you know what. And anyways, so let's take a look at this in the reflection to the door. Yeah, I can still see a bit of that detailer finish on here, but we'll go over the whole guitar and keep cleaning until it finishes off. So now we're just going to do one more light coating of the detailer on the detailer rag. Or no, this is the hydrate, sorry, on the hydrating rag. The only part of the guitar I haven't cleaned so far is the back of the neck and the headstock, and that's because I have the strings pulled around to that side. Once we get this thing all completely restrung in that, then I will go over those two areas and clean them up. All right. But here we go with the final of the hydrate. Now I'm just wiping it off with all the extra. Frets look good. The body took about as well as it could be expected. I wasn't really expecting too much. You'll notice this is my headstock holder. Basically, it's just a cardboard box that has been smushed so that it has some give to it. I see all these guys on YouTube with, you know, handmade, cut perfectly, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, that's great and all, but the average guitar player doesn't need that kind of money to be put into their materials. You know, they'll have special rags and all that sort of stuff. Well, you know, we do with what we can. All right. Now at this point, frets, body, neck, fretboard, frets. I think we're pretty much ready to just let this seat for a few more minutes, and then we're gonna restring the baby and bring her to tune. The other thing I was saying was about those special tools and stuff. That was an old playing card that I took an X-Acto knife and cut the area out there. Once I wrapped it around, you hold it like this, your frets are available to polish. You don't need to go spend lots of money on all that sort of stuff. You know, you can usually do with what you got around the house. Okay, we're just about ready to restring this baby now. Let's take a look at what we've done. There's the new fretboard. It's still a little dark because the hydrate still has to dry out a bit more, but if you remember from the beginning of the last video that I did and saw what this here fretboard looked like at that point, it's an amazing difference. Now, body's looking okay. I showed you what the back looked like before. She's a guitar again. All right. Let's bring her back to tune and see how she plays. So let's untie the little girl and see how she likes it. Okay. Yep, that's what I remember. Tuned up time. And as luck would have it, while restringing and retuning this, guess what I did? I burst a string. Good news, I just happen to have a 12-string guitar that I just restrung not long ago, so guess what? I've got a spare. Don't always throw out your older ones, because they come in real handy after you do what you just told everybody not to do. Yeah. But with that, guess I probably should have my safety glasses on for this, but I don't. Now, let's see if... Woohoo! More than long enough. I broke the other 12-string top E, which is why I had to get this as a spare. So you put the spool down in the hole. Adjust the camera. Okay. Spool goes down in the hole. Pin with the opening on this side. You want to push it in slowly until, aha, there. Now the string comes back up, but the pin goes down. So we know that the spool on the bottom is not at the bottom of the pin. And then you get halfway through tuning it up and that comes off the end and boing. Alrighty. Yep, yep. That's what we do. So luckily enough, I use light gauge strings on both my 6 and 12 string guitars, so this extra string was the right gauge. And it didn't have all that much use on it because, well, I had to replace them all because I broke one on the 12 string. So I just went and got a whole new set of strings. So this one will definitely do until such time as I have to restring this one again. That time I will probably be at the point of being able to rehydrate the fretboard, although it looks beautiful now compared to what it was. At least still has a little gray areas here and there, but I'm not too worried about that. Making sure that my winds go below the tail that sticks out. Luckily enough, I had way too much string on it anyways because it was becoming a pain trying to restring this. So I just clipped off the end enough that I was able to still have lots of string there. Alright, back to tuning. I mentioned in one of my other videos about properly disposing of the strings. You can never really put too much emphasis on that. Strings are a big hazard to wildlife and that sort of thing, so please dispose of them properly. Okay, wind them up into a little coil like this. As long as you go through the same way all the time, it will wrap up into a little circular coil. Okay, so I've got it tuned up. Now I have a 12 string, so I usually have it tuned down a bit. I have these two D, G, C, F, A, D. A, D. Yes. All right. So there we have it. She's all back together. I usually don't also use a pick, only other than to tune. It's just the way I've always learned. I always did finger picking because, long story, don't care. Anyways, that is how we're going to do it. So now, my good old mid-80s Yamaha FG420 is all cleaned up. Fretboard is, well, I guess I can do it this way, left-handed, being left-handed and all. Ain't she beautiful? This way is going to show better for the camera on the fretboard. Voila! Back together and ready to play. Wow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. She's beautiful.